Hi, so I'm Richard Petrie. I'm the CTO at LINX. I'm going to take you through the first technology presentation. So we're going to have 3 technology presentations over the next day and a bit. So Mike's going to be presenting after the coffee break, and Mo will be presenting tomorrow morning. But I'll go through these as I talk through my presentation. As always, if you've got a question as I go through, you're more than welcome to put your hand up, and we'll bring a mic over to you. Or if not, save your questions for the end, and we can go through them. So what am I going to go through? I'm going to talk about the major projects that we're working on, a quick update on the portal and the LINX API that we're doing, and I gave an update on at LINX105. I'm going to talk a little bit about the London office. So we've got some developments there for the LINX staff that are based in London, and just a quick recap on where we are on 400 gig. So project's going to cover everything: London 1, London 2, JEDIX, internal systems, root servers, Telehouse developments, and then the portal, as I say, the portal development. I won't talk about all of these because I'll go high level on some of them, because Mike's going to go into a lot more detail, and Mo again tomorrow. So you'll see as I go through this which ones we'll focus on. But so for London 1, Mike will give an update on this later on this afternoon. But the main thing that I wanted to get across is you've heard from Fleming. Fleming's not here this week. He's on holiday, but you've heard from Fleming for those that have been at meetings or watched the presentations online. We've done a lot of work with Juniper over the last, probably the last 9 months on their MX 10K platform. And the view of this is really to improve the member connectivity density at 100 gig at the edge, and also to improve the core network architecture. And the goal there for us is really to say, well, do we need to keep running the PTX 5000, which runs our core at the moment? And a lot of the driver there is cost, so we get better concentration of 100 gig, we get better port price, and obviously the cost to support the MX 10K from an annual bill with Juniper. I'm sure we've got some Juniper in the room. The cost of supporting the 10K, MX 10K is much better than the historical cost of the PTX 5000 as well. So we're working with Juniper to challenge around what we pay each year, and also to challenge around what we put into the network, just as we challenged ourselves on the Edge Core IP and Fusion cost base for London 2. We continue to do that with London 1 as well. And so Mike's going to go into a bit more detail this afternoon after the coffee break about what's happening next. I'm sure you've seen maintenances already go out on the first 2 MXs that have gone into the network already, but you'll see from Mike more detail around what's happening. On London 2, it remains pretty static from an infrastructure design point of view, from an architectural design point of view. We are going to be looking at the latest software releases from IP and Fusion. We've got internal automation work that we're still doing to make that seamless, so it's not quite at the place we want it to be. There's been some bugs that we want to work through and get it to the same place as where London 1 is on network provisioning automation. What we do want to focus on, and what Fleming, when he comes back from holiday, is working through with the IP and Fusion and Edge Core team, is around making sure we've got product parity between the 2 networks. Obviously, things that we've mentioned in the past, and Joe's mentioned about new products, private VLAN, IXP reseller, those sort of products that have come out on London 1, we want to make sure that we can honour the same sort of service and commitments around that on London 2. Some of that is delayed by the automation, because some of these products we only want to deploy if we can automate the actual fulfillment of it once the orders come in. So those go hand in hand, and those are the projects we're going to be working on, say, over the summer, the end of the summer, and as we run through into autumn. JEDIX, we now consider it fully live. There's a little bit of paperwork. I think we're just finalising on some of the commercial side, but as far as operational elements, we're now fully live. We've started to connect up members into the facility. I think we've got 1 or 2 connected, 3 in the pipeline. We expect to see come September the 1st, we expect to see these ramp up, and we expect to see JEDIX start to grow considerably in Q4. So hopefully those that are interested, I mean, obviously you can come and speak to us. We'll start presenting statistics and availability graphs on the portal as well, and you can order services if you're interested in the JEDIX infrastructure out in Saudi. The next area is internal systems. Now, we don't talk a lot about this when we do LINX meetings, and you know, what I wanted to try and point here is actually, as well as all of the London 1, London 2 work, we actually do an awful lot of work as well on the internal systems, and one of the significant updates we're going to be doing over the next 2 or 3 weeks is getting the new billing system in place and ready to do a parallel billing run to the current system. The current system is something that has been here long before I've been here, and probably most people in the room. It's I think it was self-developed by Howard Fisher many years ago, and it's still running in some sort of form. That's finally coming up for review and obviously replacement, and the teams, the finance teams and the technology teams are working through getting that fit ready for the 1st of September. The other area is video chat. So we've done some investigation and invested in some Microsoft tools. So we're now starting to use things like Teams. We've invested in Zoom to make sure that all of our staff and also, you know, the LPC board members and external people can come and talk to us over video systems. So we're using the Zoom Rooms video system, and we've done some investment around that, testing, integration work, and that's all gone into place, and that continues to be enhanced over the next few weeks. The root server, Mike's going to go into detail on this. I think I think Mo's going to go into detail on this tomorrow. If for some reason you can't get to the event tomorrow morning, and if you are interested in the root servers, Mo's around this afternoon, myself and Mike as well. Please come and speak to us if you've got an interest in that. The root server, you know, we're looking at features. Really, that's driving us. We've got member requests for RPKI. We know that we can't do that with Quagga, so we're starting to look at a bird deployment and so we'll talk through what that means from an implementation and project point of view. We're also looking at other root servers around OpenBGPD, and that will follow sometime probably in 2020. And Mike and Mo will go into those in a little bit more detail. Telehouse, I've got a slide on that. I've got quite a detailed slide on going through Telehouse, and portal developments again. I've got a slide. I'm just going to go through them. So Telehouse North 2, we've had presence or connectivity from a PI or an extension point of view for some time, but we haven't deployed any London 1 or London 2 Juniper Edge Core kit into North 2. We've been extending services. We've now reached an agreement, and we've been working hard with Telehouse, not just to be a transactional agreement, but to actually work on a partnership type approach. That slide should have built, but okay. So just to run through those points, we have agreed to secure a new point of presence, so we're going to be taking a small POP in North 2, and we'll be deploying the Juniper kit and the Edge Core kit into there over the next 8 weeks. We're working on a strategic partnership around how we deal with our members and also Telehouse's customers, because there is a disjoint there. They've got customers that are interested in peering at LINX. We've got members that are interested in leveraging some of the Telehouse facilities. And so we're working, the MBD team, Curtis and the team are working closely with Mark at Telehouse to get to refine that. We're also installing a new infrastructure that is going to be a shared cost. So at the moment we by the LINX, which is the Telehouse acronym for their services, and that runs our inter-switch links, our ISL connectivity. We've got something in the region of 50, 60 that fluctuate up and down as we migrate and we go, you know, we do various network developments. We have bills for each one of those. So we're effectively building a joint fiber infrastructure, having a single bill, and then sharing the cost and the management of that fiber infrastructure, and that will replace all of the ILC. So it should make it, you know, it's much more strategic. It makes it a simple administration, simple billing, and also gives us that predictability and flexibility where we know year on year what we're going to be paying. We've also agreed a consistent and predictable power usage with a plus or minus growth shrinkage agreement in place, and we've agreed that we'll reduce some of the legacy footprints. I think we have something like 10 rooms across the 3 sites at the moment, and we're going to be obviously introducing a 4th site in Telehouse North 2. And obviously we don't need all of those different facilities, and as I'm sure you can appreciate over the years, you know, there's bits of legacy kit that you think, oh, I'll do that next month and switch it off, remove it, and it lingers for a little bit longer. So we've agreed, and we've got a project in place to go around and clean all that stuff up. That should mean that we reduce, the non-needed space, power, reduce our cost. And I think on all of those bullet points there, what we get to is we get to the cost of operation of running the network in Telehouse starts to reduce, and this is a 5-year commitment, starts to reduce, and we're committed to this over 5 years, which obviously in turn, the cost of running the network reduces, and hopefully that then is passed on to the cost of the ports for the membership. On the portal, I did update a little bit on this last time. We've been working on order forms, so the legacy static order forms that were on the website have now all been migrated onto the portal. So you go in and they build and they're dynamic, and once you've logged into the portal, you can use them to order services. The LINX API, which I mentioned at the last meeting, has really gone well over the last 2-3 months. There was actually, I was on holiday myself last week, but there was a team in LINX team in London, but we also invited JEDIX, AM6, and our pilot partners, Interaction and Epsilon, to join us. So the 5 companies were in our London offices. There was a demo around the partners or the pilots, Epsilon and Interaction, around what they're going to be launching as far as how this looks. So the LINX API is now reaching a point where it can be released. We're hoping that documentation will come out towards the end of August, and the first point we're going to release that is into the EURIX community. We will then be presenting at EPF, which is the European Peering Forum, so those that attend, we're going to have a joint presentation with LINX, JEDIX and AM6, where we'll talk through what we've done and where we are and what's the future for this. And then we're starting to get ready to onboard other IXs, because we want this to be an industry standard. We want this to be adopted by IXs and partners and members alike. And we've already got interest from IX Reach and from Telehouse and from some of the members that use the internet exchanges as well. So we're starting to see a lot of interest gather in that. I expect over September, October that will increase. We hope maybe 4 or 5 new internet exchanges, France IX, NetNod, have all indicated interest, so they will start adopting this as well. And I think this hopefully has a long way to go in making sure we got a consistent way of dealing with the internet exchanges from ordering peering services. We've done some work on the portal around performance optimization. So this is when you log into the portal, what's the first page you see, how quickly it draws, how quickly it builds. We've done some work on optimization. It has improved. We continue to challenge ourselves on that. We do still need feedback. We've done some research into user UX, user experience. But we haven't done any work on that. We've had some discussions. We don't have those skills in-house, so we've used some external people to come in and talk to us. There was a little bit of a chicken and egg type situation where we want good tools to be on there, but we also want the user experience. We don't want to improve the user experience but not have good tools on the portal. So we continue to look, how do we do that hand in hand? Really welcome feedback about what you would like to see on the portal, what tools you would like us to develop, and the user experience. Is it slow? Is it clunky? Is it where can we improve on that? And to say the tools that we'll be launching or we'll be looking at, everything now from a strategic point of view, whenever we look at new work or new tools or new functionality, there's a stream that says, well, how do we put that on the portal? How do we make sure that's available for the members so that you can get insight into it? The first phase will be that we give you a feed so that you can see what's happening. What we want to do over various iterations is then allow you to then interact with it. So this would be configuration changes or parameter settings that you'd be able to do through the portal, and it would take action without having to call through to LINX NOC. So Mike's going to go through. I think Mike and Mo are going to talk through some of the tooling. Obviously, this focuses on the root server. So as we develop the burden RPKI, and if we do go down the route of OpenBGPD, as we do that work in our labs and our testing, we'll be considering from the software team, and we've got a small software team that we have internally at LINX, how do we then consider, what tools we enable for the portal, and the network engineering and the software teams will work together on that. So on the stats, there's been a request from the membership. So those that monitor the member list would have seen that there's been some various discussions around adding functionality to the statistics. So this is A member requests about access to statistics on traffic discard. So this is on outbound to their own ports. So we don't do this today, so this would be a new feature. We are considering this, so typically, I mean, just for background, for those that aren't familiar with this, typically we would, when ports start to get run hot, around 60–70%, we would then contact members and say, look, we think you should upgrade. So once we go through that process, we then see people upgrade, or potentially they start to run their ports hotter. This tool has the potential to help members run the ports very hot, which has a positive. It means it drives utilization. It also has a negative, which means that there's higher chance of degradation for other members that are appearing with that person. So we will ask for feedback on this because it has positives and negatives. So some people will want to do this. Some people will, some members will probably say, hey, we don't particularly want this. It will then be a feature development that goes into the portal backlog. So considering the root server, considering the looking glass, and these sort of things, we'll try and work out how we communicate to the membership, which ones do we think are the most important to develop first over the others. Right, London. We are, it's not building again, sorry. We are moving offices again. It's been nearly 5 years, actually, so those that have been around and attended LINX meetings for a while would have probably gone through the history of when we moved from St Thomas Street to where we are in Monument. But we're now at a 5-year break clause. We signed a 10-year contract back in, whenever it was, four and a half years ago. And we're now at a break clause. And why are we looking to change? Well, essentially, this is going to be driven by cost reduction. So we invest in the network builds. I mean, you hear from the likes of Mike and Fleming, and we do an awful lot of work with the partners like EdgeCore, IP Infusion, and Juniper, and Telehouse, what I've spoken about today, to try and invest in network equipment and design, and how do we optimize that. We invest in our staff, so we've got some excellent LINX engineering staff, software and network engineering staff across the company. But we do need to consider optimizing our costs elsewhere. And so, if we start to look at, well, where can we optimize? Obviously, the London office is one of these things that we can compromise on. It does mean a cultural difference. It is going to be a change for the LINX staff that work in London. That's mainly the technology teams, which are based there. We are going to be looking at moving to a WeWorks facility. So this is kind of a shared office facility for those that aren't familiar with WeWorks. You basically pay for a dedicated area. The size is based on a desk count. You get access to that, but you then get access to shared facilities like meeting rooms, kitchens, and things like that. So it's a different type of working. We won't have dedicated meeting room. We're going to have one meeting room that's dedicated for us in our space, but typically we would then use the rest of the building facilities to book and use that. It does mean there's a different style of working. We're going to have to invest in some of our IT services, VPN controls and security controls, because we're moving into a different environment. But we expect to see a longer term saving. If you take the 5 years for the rest of the contract that we're looking for, there's a considerable saving year on year for those five years. So that's what's happening. You're here. I mean, that's November we're going to be moving. I think we get the WeWorks facility 1st of November. We're expecting to move out of the Monument Street place by the end of November, and then we usual dilapidation repairs and all that sort of stuff before we hand it back. So that will be impacting. We're trying to minimise the impact to the membership. Obviously, we'll be moving the NOC, we'll be moving the engineers, we'll be moving the way that we access our lab and our services, and so it should be seamless to the membership, but obviously we'll keep you posted on how that goes. But I just wanted to really point out there's a lot of work there that's going on behind the scenes, and, again, to try and drive cost out of the way that we run the business, but not necessarily you'll see that will go in parallel to all the great work that we're doing with Juniper and London 2 Network. Finally, the 400 gig developments. I just want to finish off with that. We are still monitoring the market. We're putting in budget for 2020, and you'll see as we go through the budget process and present at the LINX107 event, we will be considering what happens with 400 gig. We are considering solutions from Juniper. We spoke with Juniper. We've spoken with EdgeCore. We're also looking at what else is in the marketplace, and so we'll sort of be driven by the member demand. There is hidden complexity, especially when you talk about devices that use the Broadcom ASICs, which ASICs are available at which times, and what functionality. It might have functionality for supporting the members' needs, but not necessarily functionality that supports the IX's needs. So we do need to do a lot of testing, and we do need to work with the members on that. So if for some reason, if any of you or anyone online has got lab testing that's going on, we'd love to work with you on doing some of that lab testing. Early visibility to this really benefits us in our planning, both on the budget but also on the technical side. Just an FYI, from an optical, we are looking at the 2-kilometer FR8 version of the optical interface coming out first, so we're probably looking at launching on that if it does come out in 2020. We're also monitoring the LR8 10-kilometer version, but that's a little bit less mature in the market, and so and as you can probably appreciate, the cost of these optics will depreciate or go down as they become much more mass-produced. So buy-in, when we buy these, we're going to obviously want to try and buy them as late as possible to get the best price and all that. Okay, so just if you are thinking about 400 gig, come and speak to me, drop me or Curtis or the team a note, and we're happy to work with you. And that's it. So went through a few topics there. Any questions on any of those topics? Happy to go back. Yes.
Can you just go back to the slide regarding the discard accounts, please? You've talked about runs the risk of service degradation for other members.
If it's running, yeah. I mean, if you're running it in the high percentage, and
so you've taken something that helps ensure that members can have 0% discards on their ports, and I'm astounded that you somehow spun this into a negative thing. Do you have any evidence that this is what actually will happen?
No. I mean, there's a positive and negative there. I mean, when you said helps people to run it without any discard, this does drive utilization, and that's what's meant by it does drive utilization. So absolutely, there's a positive and negative, and so we're trying to keep a neutral stance on this. This is where we will put this out to the membership and say, hey, is this interesting? The first part is if the membership come back and say, yeah, we really want that, great. It gets in, as I say, puts into the backlog. The second part is then saying, well, if you want this, and we're also doing some great work on the root servers and looking glasses, whereabouts do we want to do that? I know it's very difficult at the moment for us to survey the membership around what they see as a priority, but that will be part of the process that we'll have to go through.
But you currently don't have any discard stats even internally, do you?
We can get access to them, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you've arbitrarily picked 60% utilization, and you're assuming that below 60% utilization there won't be discards, and I don't believe this is true. I believe that you will find that you are getting discards. If all you have at the moment is 5-minute intervals, which I think is that correct? Are you doing anything at sub 5-minute intervals?
From a graphing point of view, it's 5 minutes, but yeah, obviously we can interrogate the devices more granular than that.
Okay, I think you'll find that if you look at sub 5-minute intervals, you can get discards at a lot less than 60% utilization. And so I think that the idea that we're going to make things worse for other members if you start exposing discard statistics is actually completely incorrect.
Okay. Well, I mean, I appreciate that's from your opinion on that. The 60%, just so this is more of this is for our member relations to say, hey, look, we're seeing people reach this point. Let's have a conversation.
Is that 60% peak or is that 60% average?
That's if it hits that threshold, we'll get an alert that says the sales team can then go and say, look, which is a standard.
So but I mean, is that like if there's a single 5-minute interval that reaches 60% utilization?
I'd have to check with the reports on that, James.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Excellent. Well, look, if over the next day and a half you've got any questions on anything we're working on the technology side, feel free to stop by and have a chat. Thank you.